not the overspending.
What's up with it? This is your boy Expat D here, and we're here to look at another video. So what we're going to talk about is the American dream. And you might hear politicians that talk about the American dream, but the reality is the American dream has died about 45 years ago, okay? Now Americans must work about 55% more hours to afford the same basket of essential housing, healthcare, food, college savings that they did in 1985. You know, back then a single paycheck could buy a home, raise a family, and secure retirement. Today we're drowning in debt. Rent is sky high, and the cost of living, well, it has made the dream feel like a myth. Okay, so when we talk about the American dream, what are we chasing here? Have we sat back and really thought about what we're chasing? Okay, I want you to listen a little bit about this video and see what do we have to say about the American dream.
It's the cost of living. Here is a breakdown of the average Gen Z and millennials' cost of living in today's world. So number one is rent.
Okay, so this guy, he's talking about the cost breakdown, okay, for like Gen Z, millennial. I think this is based on a single person, okay? So let's look at some of these numbers. Let's see if how accurate some of these numbers are.
Everyone knows that Gen Z and millennials have to have a roommate. So splitting a 2-bedroom apartment with utilities is around $1,500. If you have a car, a $12,000 to $15,000 used car is still going to run you $400 a month. Car insurance and gas is another $300. Student loan payment, $500.
All right, so here's a couple of the expenses he's talked about so far. So he's talking about rent. And so I guess he's saying $1,500 a month, and this is based on a 2-bedroom. I guess this is based on splitting it with somebody. So I guess your rent will be $1,500. And he's saying $400 for a car. I'm assuming that's about a brand new car. That sounds about right. Gas and insurance, $300. That's actually fluctuates. It could be a little bit more. I mean, insurance, man, when I was, let's say I lived in like a bigger city, like when I lived in Miami, and Miami is like notorious for people that or like drive with no license, drive with no insurance. Even the cost of like just the PIP, the state minimum insurance, was sky high. It was like having a brand new car. So that could be a little bit more. When you look at student loans, I often, when people talk about student loans, right, I often see this figure being manipulated. So the typical person, if you owe $500 a month, you're just not going to sit there and pay $500 a month. You're probably going to try to get in some type of income-based repayment plan and try to knock that down to like maybe half of that, maybe $200 or $250 or something like that. So I often feel like student loan figures get exaggerated for argument's sake. But I see enough things that he's talking about that look accurate or actually on the lower side, so that number can actually even out.
Have groceries for $500. You're going to have personal care, doctor's appointments, hair, gym, about $150, and then cell phone and miscellaneous $150. That's $3,500 a month, which is baseline. Do you know how much $3,500 a month is? $70,000 a year.
Yeah. So here's a crazy thing. So he's got some figures out here. His figures look in the ballpark. So the craziest thing that you want to look at is the fact that tell me what you can cut. A lot of times the misconception when people say they're living a paycheck to paycheck or they're struggling financially, the assumption is that you're just being frivolous with your money. You know, you're doing like, oh, you're going on trips, you have a whole bunch of extra stuff you don't need. You need to, buckle up and get serious about your finances. But this is typically what is on people's finances. And here's the crazy thing. It's kind of flipped. Okay, if you look years ago, your expenses used to be cheap. Your luxuries used to be expensive. Now it's in reverse. Okay, rent was relatively cheap. Now rent is expensive. Car used to be a lot cheaper, and then even the interest rates and things like that affects your payment. Gas, we already know gas was cheaper. To go to school was way cheaper, and then also you could do things like, they didn't enforce student loans the same way. You used to be able to discharge that in bankruptcy and stuff like that. Now it's like tied to you for life. Okay, which is really scandalous. If people are going to school to try to make themselves, to better themselves, and now this is really like holding you back, having the student loans. So most of this stuff, right? This is necessity stuff, and when you look at what can you cut, it's like you can't cut any of it, and it's all like tied together. Me personally, I chose to leave the States because I can get ahead easier and I can manipulate these numbers. Like, I'll give you an example. In a lot of countries, what happens is they use more of the pay-as-you-go system. Okay, so let's say you wanted, let's say a phone. Well, you typically buy your phone, you're not going to finance your phone. And then you pretty much pay for the minutes that you want. You pay for the data that you want for the internet, you pay for like phone minutes, things like that. It's pay as you go. So let's say, for example, you said, hey, I want to save money. Let's say hypothetically that cell phone bill was $150, and you say, okay, I'm going to go without a cell phone for a month or 2 months and try to save $300. Well, you can do that. But if you try something like that in America, they'll say, well, you're under contract. You can't do it. You can't just stop. And if you stop and you get a bunch of late payments, it goes against your credit, then it makes your interest rates go up, and it makes everything else more expensive, and it's just like an ongoing cycle, just going around and around and around. So the issue is you can't just play around with the states because they know how to extract money from you, they know how to get contracts from you, and they know how to really loop you into everything. That's why I was talking about it in another video that I posted. Someone was talking about living abroad and returning to the United States. And I get a chance to travel back, but it's not like I do it to see my family. I love to see my family. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that. I'm not someone that left the country and that like can't come back often and things like that. But America's not the easiest place to get in and get out. Okay, so like typically I would go to different countries like Kenya or Thailand or something like that, right? What you can do is you could pop up there, get an Airbnb, okay, for cheap. There's no like security deposit, credit check, none of that stuff, okay? You can get either, like if I'm in Thailand, I'd rent a scooter, and that costs just like, I think it's like $4, $5 a day, right? Gas is super cheap. There's even situations like when I lived in China, you get an electric scooter, you pay a couple $100 for the electric scooter, and that's the one I got was brand new, and that's it. You charge the battery and that's it. There's no paying for gas. So now your transportation, after you pay for it, there's no like ongoing insurance or ongoing gas. That's it. So living in another country is my hack of ways that you can manipulate and you can cut things, and everything's not tied to everything. Basically, it's not a interconnected system that extracts money in every single direction possible. When you live in a system like that, you can never save money, you can never get ahead, right? So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of people are latching on to a couple things. They're in America, they're tired, they're busy. So a lot of times you don't have time to just sit back. You're just trying to survive, right? And you sit back and think about it, it's like, dang, it's really hard to get ahead because of this system. You don't make enough money. You do make more money, you might get taxed more. You might end up paying more for the basic things that you have around you, Or you might start adding a couple extra things, a couple subscriptions of this, a couple subscription of that. Maybe you take a trip. Like you want to have some type of lifestyle. So that's what makes it so tough in the States, and that's why more people are actually deciding to leave, right? You know, if you're interested in knowing more about that option, I make videos on that. I have videos on that, and you can learn different strategies, tips, and tricks on how you can do regular things, but do extraordinary things with those regular things. You know, if you catch my drift, right? You can really increase your lifestyle. It's a realistic hack, you know. So yeah. So let me know what you think. You know, do you think these figures are accurate? Do you think it's hard to get by in the United States? Let me know in the comment section. Do you think that there's things that you can cut? What do you think you can cut out of your basic bills to get ahead? You know, because it's extremely difficult for a lot of people, and most people, particularly millennials and Gen Z, that's it, man. This is pretty much how it's been. A lot of friends that I have around my age group, they've been working 2 jobs since I freaking were in my 20s. I've got friends that's working 2 jobs to try to hang out with them, always busy, always job number 1, job number 2, and then they got whatever else little time they have left. The quality of life really sucks. You know, I'd say for like the past 20 years, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But anyway, right? I'm Expat D. I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, subscribe if you like this type of content. Hey, peace and I'm out.